It's hard to move forward when you're constantly staring at the rearview mirror. Today, we're getting honest about the baggage, the hurts, and the guilt that keep us stuck in the past.
Yeah, it really is. And, honestly, it is just a privilege to be sitting here with you again. Welcome to the Crosstalk Cafe, right here in South Park, Pennsylvania. We're really just two friends, two peers, walking the road of recovery together.
Yeah, exactly.
And we just want to invite you, the listener, right where you are today, to pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and just sit at the table with us.
That is like the whole point of this time we spend together. We are gathering the absolute best principles of recovery, human psychology, and spiritual truth, and bringing them right here to this table.
Right to the table.
Because life, and certainly the road of recovery, is a long-distance endeavor. I mean, we are all lacing up our shoes trying to run this race, but what we see over and over...
Oh, all the time.
Right. Both in our own reflections and, in the faces of the people who sit across from us here at the cafe, is just this profound exhaustion. Yeah.
And it's not the kind of exhaustion that comes from, healthy exertion.
No, not at all. It's a structural exhaustion. I mean, we see people who are completely depleted, and they often think the exhaustion comes from the running itself.
Right. They blame the distance.
Exactly. They say, life is just too hard or recovery is just too demanding. But when you look closely at the mechanics of what is actually happening, it's not the distance that's destroying their stride.
Oh.
It is the invisible baggage. I mean, we are carrying things we were never meant to carry, and it is literally grinding us into the pavement.
I think we need to establish a very clear visual constraint for this conversation right up front.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to talk about, emotional baggage as if it's just this light metaphorical backpack you could just shrug off.
You're right. Like it's just a carry-on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We need to look at the reality of this weight. So imagine trying to run a marathon, but tied around your waist with a thick, rusted iron chain are two massive, heavy anchors.
And with every single step you take forward, you are physically dragging these iron anchors behind you on the asphalt.
You can almost hear that sound, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Like the scraping, the friction, the sheer physical toll of dragging dead weight across concrete. It is an incredibly powerful image because it captures the true neurology and physiology of our struggle.
It really does.
Because guilt and hurt are not nebulous clouds of emotion that just sort of hover over your head.
Yeah.
They're concrete physical realities in the brain and the body.
Yeah.
They act exactly like those two heavy anchors. They catch on every single crack in the sidewalk. They slow your momentum down to an agonizing crawl. And eventually, the friction overcomes your forward thrust, bringing you to a complete standstill.
And you feel it in your nervous system. You literally feel the sparks flying off the concrete. Your cortisol is spiked. Your muscles are tense. Your digestion is off.
Your whole body.
Your body is screaming because of the tension. So if we know we are exhausted from pulling these two heavy anchors, and we can actually feel the friction ruining our lives, we have to do something terrifying.
Yeah, we do.
We have to stop running. We have to halt our forward motion, turn around, trace those heavy chains back to their source, and take a brutal, honest inventory of what exactly those anchors are attached to.
And see, stopping is the part most of us avoid at all costs.
Oh, absolutely.
It requires an enormous amount of courage to halt the illusion of progress, to look at what's actually dragging you backward. Because when you're running, even if you're running terribly, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're dragging iron behind you, you feel like you're doing something. You feel productive.
I'm busy, I'm working, I'm surviving.
Exactly. Stopping to look at the chains feels like a massive vulnerability. Feels like failure, honestly. But the reality of human psychology is that until you address the friction, all your forward effort is just burning up the engine.
That's so true.
So let's look at the very first chain. Let's trace it back to the first anchor.
Okay, I want to ask you, the listener, a question directly right now. And I want you to really let this sit in your mind for a moment without, rushing past it. What past hurts are you holding on to?
Man, that is the anchor of the wounds inflicted upon us. And to understand how this specific anchor operates, we have to talk about the concept of the invisible backpack.
The invisible backpack.
Yeah. Every single one of us wears this. It is totally unseen by the rest of the world, but the weight of it dictates our posture, our reactions, and how we move through life. It is where we store the wounds, the betrayals, the abandonment.
And even the small stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely. The casual daily slights for other people.
Just unzip it, drop the rock in, and zip it back up.
Yeah.
Someone cuts us off in traffic, a pebble goes in, a parent fails to show up for us when we were 10 years old. A boulder goes in.
A huge boulder.
A spouse betrays our trust. An anvil goes in. We do this over and over again from early childhood right up until we sat down for breakfast this morning.
And we have to ask the critical question here. Why do we do this? Why do we voluntarily carry stones that are breaking our backs?
It's a great question.
The tragic irony of the invisible backpack is the psychological motivation behind it. We walk around carrying the crushing weight of what other people have done to us because the human brain mistakenly believes that holding on to the pain somehow protects us from future harm.
Wow. Okay.
It is an evolutionary defense mechanism. The brain is basically a prediction machine. It thinks if I catalog every single time I've been hurt and I carry those memories right at the forefront of my consciousness, I can predict and avoid the next threat.
Wait, I want to push back on that a little bit, actually.
Okay, go for it.
Doesn't remembering who hurt us actually keep us safe? I mean, if I drop the rock from the backpack, aren't I just inviting the person who threw it to hit me again?
Right.
Like if someone stole from me, carrying the memory of that theft stops me from giving them the keys to my house again. That seems like wisdom to me, not baggage.
Okay, well, no, let me clarify that because it's a brilliant point. But there's a massive distinction between learned wisdom and active bitterness.
Okay.
Wisdom is changing your boundaries based on new data.
Yeah.
You don't give the thief your keys. That requires zero emotional weight.
Oh, I see.
Bitterness, however, is the neurological loop of reliving the theft every single day. We think the rocks in the backpack are a shield. We convince ourselves that if we never forget the visceral sting of how this person betrayed us,
Yeah.
we will never let ourselves be vulnerable again.
Right.
But the brain doesn't know the difference between a past memory and a current event when it comes to stress hormones.
That is fascinating. So you are saying that the physical cost of holding the grudge is actually harming us in the present moment, even if the person who hurt us is long gone.
Absolutely. When you ruminate on a past betrayal, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, lights up exactly as it did when the event originally happened.
Wow.
Your body floods with cortisol and adrenaline. You are quite literally poisoning your own physical vessel to punish someone else. It leads to a profound, deep-seated bitterness. And we really need to delve deeply into the physical and spiritual exhaustion of that state. Because bitterness is not a passive emotion. It is an active, ravenous energy drain.
It really is. It takes a massive amount of daily calories to keep a grudge alive.
It does. It requires focused, intentional energy to keep resentment breathing.
Yeah.
You have to feed it.
Yeah.
You have to wake up and replay the betrayal in your mind. You have to stoke the fires of your own anger to ensure you don't accidentally slip into forgiveness.
That sounds exhausting just talking about it.
It is. The neural pathways of bitterness have to be maintained or they will naturally fade. So you are working a full-time, emotionally exhausting job to fuel that heavy anchor of resentment, leaving you with virtually zero energy to invest in your actual life, your family, or your recovery.
You know, the analogy that always hits me hardest when I think about how much energy we waste on this involves an airport.
Oh, I love this one.
Right. Imagine you are walking through one of those massive, sprawling airport terminals. You've got miles to walk to reach your gate.
Yeah.
But instead of just carrying your own small carry-on bag, you are lugging someone else's massive, overweight 70-pound suitcase.
Dragging it.
You are sweating. Your shoulders are screaming in pain. The nylon strap is digging so deep into your hand that you're losing circulation.
Yeah.
And you are dragging this luggage for miles, all while somehow expecting the other person to get tired.
That captures the absolute insanity of resentment perfectly. The physics of it make no sense.
Run.
The person who hurt you, the owner of the suitcase, is likely completely oblivious. They might be sitting at their gate right now, totally relaxed, reading a magazine and sipping a latte.
While you're sweating and agonizing.
Meanwhile, you are hundreds of miles away in your own mind, completely incapacitated by the weight of their actions.
Right.
You are bearing the physical consequence of their mistake.
And here's the craziest part. We refuse to put the bag down.
We really do.
When someone points out how tired we look, we just grip the handle tighter. I remember a time I held on to a petty grudge against a former coworker. I won't get into the weeds, but they took credit for a project I essentially built from the ground up.
Oh, that's frustrating.
For 3 years, I carried that 70-pound mental suitcase. I rehearsed what I would say to them in the shower. I ruined family dinners thinking about how unfair it was.
Yeah, we've all been there.
And one day I saw them at a coffee shop, and they gave me a huge, genuine smile and waved, completely unbothered.
Oh, wow.
They hadn't thought about me in years. I was burning my own house down to prove a point to someone who didn't even know I lived there.
Which brings up something incredibly challenging about the human ego.
Yeah.
Why do we grip the handle so tightly? Why do we prefer the pain of the heavy anchor over the freedom of dropping it?
I want to ask the listener another direct question right here. Does holding on to this hurt give you a false sense of control? Are you terrified of who you might be without your anger?
Oof. That question cuts right through the defense mechanisms. That is the core fear that keeps the invisible backpack strapped tight to our shoulders.
It really is.
Because anger can feel incredibly powerful. When you have been a victim, when you've been made to feel utterly powerless by someone else's cruel or careless actions, anger acts as a synthetic form of power.
Right.
It feels like you are taking the control back.
It is deeply seductive. Righteous indignation feels so much better than helpless sorrow. I mean, crying over a wound feels weak. Raging over a wound feels strong.
Exactly. It gives you an identity. You become the person who was wronged.
Yeah.
And if you have built the entire architecture of your personality around surviving that wrong, around fighting back against that unfairness, then letting go of the anger feels like stepping off a cliff into the void.
That's terrifying.
If you are the angry victim, who are you? What do you talk about? What drives you? The fear of that unknown identity is often far greater than the pain of dragging the heavy anchor.
So how do we fundamentally reframe this? Because the resistance to letting go is that it feels like surrender. It feels like letting the person who hurt us off the hook, like we were saying, hey, no big deal, you win.
And that is the single greatest misconception about forgiveness and releasing bitterness. Letting go of the invisible backpack does not mean pretending the hurt never happened. It doesn't mean saying that what they did was okay or acceptable or that it didn't leave a permanent scar. Forgiveness is not amnesia. It means making a conscious, deliberate choice to stop letting their past actions dictate your current stride.
Wow. You are choosing your own biological and spiritual freedom over their conviction.
Yes, you are dropping their heavy suitcase right there in the middle of the terminal.
Yeah.
You are unhooking the first heavy anchor. You look at the iron chain, you acknowledge it was there, you acknowledge it was heavy and unfair, but you absolutely refuse to drag it another inch.
I love that.
You leave it on the pavement and you walk to your gate. That is what forgiveness is. It is cutting the chain.
It is about taking ownership of your own race again. But, and here is the brutal reality of the road of recovery, that is only half the battle.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say you do it. You drop the invisible backpack, you forgive the people who hurt you, you cut the chain to the first anchor. But you try to take a step forward and you realize you are still stuck. The friction is still there.
Yeah.
Because we've only looked at the first anchor, the wounds inflicted upon us, the things we had no control over. What happens when we turn around and look at the second chain? The wounds we've inflicted on others and on ourselves.
This is where the road gets incredibly steep. Because it's one thing to look at what was done to us. That allows us to keep our pride intact.
Right, we get to be the victim.
Exactly. It is quite another psychological undertaking to look in the mirror at what we have done.
Let's face the second major question we have to answer on this road. What past or present actions make you feel guilty?
We are moving from the weight of bitterness to the weight of shame. If the first anchor is forged from other people's actions, this second heavy anchor is forged entirely by our own hands. It is built from our own missteps, our addictions, our selfish choices, our lies, our betrayals of trust.
And I would argue that while bitterness drains our energy, guilt paralyzes us completely.
It is entirely paralyzing.
Yeah.
Guilt steps in front of the runner and builds a 10-foot brick wall. It convinces the runner that they are fundamentally disqualified from the race.
That's so heavy.
That they don't even deserve to cross the finish line, let alone run the race freely. The internal monologue shifts from, look what they did to me, to, look at the mess you've made.
Look at the people you've destroyed.
Yes. You have no right to seek healing. You belong in the dirt with the anchors.
It's a devastating internal narrative. And to navigate this, we have to break down a really crucial psychological and spiritual distinction, because not all negative feelings about our actions are the same.
That's right.
If we just lump all bad feelings into a category called guilt, we will never get free. We have to separate the signal from the noise.
This is perhaps one of the most vital things anyone in recovery can learn. We have to clearly define the distinction between healthy conviction and toxic guilt.
Yes.
They might feel physiologically similar at first glance, a tightening in your chest, a drop in your stomach, a sudden burning awareness of wrongness. But their origins, their mechanisms, and their ultimate destinations are completely opposite.
Walk us through the mechanics of that. Let's start with healthy conviction.
Okay, healthy conviction is productive. It is a clear, corrective signal designed to save your life. Think of it like the rumble strips carved into the shoulder of a highway.
Oh, I hate those things.
Right. When you are driving late at night and your car starts drifting out of its lane and heading toward the ditch, your tires hit those strips. The entire car shakes violently. The noise is loud, it's jarring, and it spikes your heart rate.
Yeah, it wakes you up fast.
It is a highly unpleasant experience.
Yeah.
But the sole purpose of that rumble strip is to wake you up so you can steer the vehicle back onto the safety of the road.
It's pointing out a wrong action, but it's not condemning the driver.
Exactly.
So rumble strip doesn't say you are a terrible person who deserves to crash. It just says you are drifting. Correct your course.
That is the perfect way to frame it. Healthy conviction ultimately leads to repentance. In the truest sense of the word, repentance just means changing your mind and turning around.
Right.
Conviction leads to course correction, to making amends, and to positive behavioral change. The internal voice of healthy conviction says, you made a mistake. That action you took yesterday was wrong and it hurt someone. Now let's do the hard, necessary work to make it right.
It's so actionable.
The focus is entirely on the action and the solution.
You made a mistake, now let's make it right. That feels grounded. It feels incredibly hopeful, even though it requires a tremendous amount of relational work and humility.
It does. But toxic guilt operates on a completely different psychological loop. It is entirely destructive. It is rooted deep in the neurobiology of shame. If conviction is a rumble strip designed to keep you on the road, toxic guilt is someone grabbing the steering wheel, driving your car off a bridge into the river, and then whispering in your ear that you deserve to drown.
Man, that is dark.
Toxic guilt leads straight to hiding, to isolation, and to severe self-sabotage.
It changes the focus from the action to the core identity.
That is the defining line. Toxic guilt doesn't say you made a mistake. It looks you dead in the eye, bypasses your logic, and says you are a mistake.
Ouch.
You are fundamentally genetically broken. You are inherently bad, toxic, and unlovable, so why even try to be better?
You are a mistake, so why even try? You can practically feel the weight of that second anchor settling deep into the pavement when you articulate it that way.
Yeah.
But I want to really challenge our natural assumptions about this. Because as destructive and painful as toxic guilt is, I have noticed something incredibly insidious about the human mind, especially the mind in recovery.
Okay, where are you taking this?
Well, I think we talk about toxic guilt like it's this terrible virus we catch against our will. But the truth is, I think sometimes we subconsciously prefer toxic guilt over healthy conviction.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I think we actually choose the sickness.
That is a very heavy claim. Why would anyone choose the agony of shame?
Because wallowing in shame, sitting alone in a dark room, telling yourself you are a piece of garbage, isolating yourself from your friends. I mean, it hurts, yes. It is miserable.
Very.
But it is actually significantly easier than doing the hard, active, terrifying work of healthy conviction.
I see what you're saying. It's passive.
Yes.
Shame requires zero action. It requires zero vulnerability with another human being.
Exactly that. If I accept healthy conviction, it demands action. It means I have to pick up the phone, I have to drive to someone's house, look them in the eye, the person I betrayed, the person I lied to, and say, I was wrong, I hurt you, how can I make this right?
It's terrifying.
It's the hardest thing in the world. It means I have to actually change my behavior tomorrow, which requires discipline. But if I just sit in toxic guilt, I'm completely off the hook.
Right.
I can just say, well, I'm a monster. I'm just a screw-up. I can't help it, so there's no point in trying to fix it. It becomes a twisted, dark comfort zone. It's a get-out-of-jail-free card for accountability.
Wow.
So I have to ask the listener, are you using your toxic guilt as a hiding place to avoid the extreme vulnerability of real change?
That is a piercing, uncomfortable truth. Are we using our own shame as a shield against the hard work of recovery?
Yes.
Because making amends requires supreme vulnerability. You have to lay your pride down completely. You have to admit you are flawed, but capable of doing better.
Yeah.
Toxic guilt allows you to keep your pride safely wrapped up in a blanket of self-pity.
It rated
You
it.
become the tragic hero of your own failure. You get to be the star of a very sad movie,
Yeah.
rather than a supporting character who has to do the chores of cleaning up the mess.
It's self-obsession disguised as remorse. I am just thinking about myself, how bad I feel, how ruined I am. It's still all about me.
That is precisely what it is. It is the ultimate narcissism of shame. And as long as we are choosing the hiding place of toxic guilt, we are welding that second anchor to our waist with titanium, we will never, ever move forward. The friction will destroy us.
So let's look at the reality of the runner right now.
Okay.
If we are dragging the anchor of hurt, the bitter resentment about what was done to us, carrying that invisible backpack full of other people's rocks, and we are simultaneously dragging the anchor of toxic guilt, the isolating shame about what we have done, hiding in the dark to avoid accountability, the runner is entirely immobilized.
Completely stuck.
We're stuck on the pavement. The iron chains are simply too thick for us to break with our bare hands. So what is the mechanism of freedom? How do we finally cut the chains?
We need a remedy that is fundamentally stronger than our pride and fundamentally stronger than our shame. We cannot outthink this problem, and we cannot outwork it. The ultimate tool for unburdening the runner, the mechanism by which we sever these chains permanently, is found in a very specific spiritual principle. We see it perfectly articulated in 1 John chapter 1, verse 9.
It's the ultimate reset button for the human soul.
It truly is. The scripture lays out a simple, profound, conditional statement. It says, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness.
But let's not just read that as poetry. Let's really look at the practical mechanics of what that means for the two anchors we've been talking about.
Okay. The operative mechanism here is stepping out of hiding. Think about the common denominator of both anchors. The hurt we harbor from others and the guilt we wallow in from our own actions. They both require darkness to survive.
Right.
We hide our invisible backpack because we don't want people to see how deeply wounded and vulnerable we are. We hide our shame because we are terrified. People will see how broken and flawed we are. Toxic guilt and bitterness absolutely demand the dark. But healing, biologically and spiritually, requires light.
Bringing these hidden burdens, both the hurts inflicted on us and the guilt we carry, into the light of Jesus Christ, there is a profound physical relief in that action. It is the end of pretending.
It is the exact moment the heavy suitcase is dropped. And we need to understand what confession actually is. Confession is not about giving God information he didn't already have.
No, not at all.
He knows exactly what rocks are in your backpack. He knows every detail of the mistakes you've made. Confession is about agreeing with him. The Greek word for confess literally means to say the same thing as.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's bringing the reality of your pain and your failure out of the shadows and placing it right on the table in the light, saying, this is what is true.
But I have to say, acknowledging that sounds beautiful in theory, but living it out is absolutely terrifying.
Incredibly terrifying.
If I am carrying an invisible backpack full of shame, betrayal, and bitterness, the light sounds like the absolute last place I want to be. The light exposes the mess.
It exposes the dirt, the wounds, the scars. It exposes the things we've spent decades trying to cover up with achievements or humor or anger or addiction.
I think of the light of Christ in this context like a powerful spiritual disinfectant.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Imagine you have a deep, infected physical wound on your arm. You've kept it wrapped up in dirty, tightly bound bandages for years. You never let air get to it.
Right.
That is exactly what holding on to bitterness and toxic guilt is like. The tissue is rotting. And then someone suddenly unwraps the bandage and pours pure medical-grade disinfectant directly onto the infected tissue. What is the immediate physiological response?
It burns. It stings with incredible intensity. Every nerve ending screams.
It stings the absolute second it hits the wound. And our immediate primal instinct is to pull our arm away, to run back into the dark, and to frantically put the dirty bandage back on.
Because at least the dirty bandage is familiar.
Exactly. The dull ache of the infection is a pain we are used to, but the sharp sting of the disinfectant is terrifying. Yet, that disinfectant is the absolute only way to stop the infection from spreading to the rest of the body.
Yeah.
It is the only way to kill the bacteria of shame, clear out the cellular debris of bitterness, and bring true healing. It fundamentally has to sting before it can heal.
That is an incredibly powerful reality, and it explains why so many of us stay stuck in recovery. We are terrified of the sting.
We really are.
We would rather slowly die from the infection of the anchors than face the temporary, sharp pain of the light. We are afraid of what exposure will cost us.
So we have to confront that fear directly right now. I want to ask you, what is the specific fear keeping you in the dark today? What are you convinced the light will destroy if you bring your anchors into it?
When we trace that fear to its root, we are usually convinced the light will destroy our reputation. We think it will destroy our relationships or our carefully constructed facade, that we have our lives completely together. But the profound irony The thing we cannot see from the dark is that the facade is exactly what is killing us.
Wow.
The light doesn't destroy the person. It destroys the infection.
And the relief on the other side of that initial sting is the freedom we are all actually desperately searching for.
Right.
When the wound is clean, the body can finally rest.
Bringing these things into the light does not result in condemnation. That is the great lie of toxic guilt.
Right.
Toxic guilt tells you that if you step into the light, if you confess what you've done or the bitterness you carry, you will be crushed by judgment. But 1 John chapter 1, verse 9 promises the exact literal opposite.
Yes.
It says, he is faithful and just to forgive and to cleanse. The result of stepping into the light is not a heavier burden. It is immediate radical relief.
The chains to those two heavy anchors are severed.
Severed completely. And notice, they are not severed by our own strength.
Yeah.
We couldn't break those rusted iron chains if we spent 1,000 years trying to pry them apart.
No. The friction and the grinding would just slowly erode us.
Exactly. The chains are severed by the grace found when we finally stop hiding, when we allow the spiritual disinfectant to do its work, when we agree to drop the luggage and say, I cannot carry this anymore.
And when you step out onto the pavement without those anchors,
Oh my God.
when you take a stride and there is no grinding noise, no friction, no chains catching on the concrete, you realize what your body and your spirit were actually built for.
Yeah.
You can run freely. You aren't burning energy just trying to survive the weight. You are actually moving toward a destination.
You can finally breathe. You can finally move forward because you are no longer constantly staring at the rearview mirror, terrified of what's catching up to you or what you're dragging behind you.
Yep. This has been such a challenging, incredibly necessary conversation. As we sit here at the cafe, finishing up our coffee, looking out at the road ahead of us, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to take with you today.
We do.
You have been dragging these two heavy anchors for miles. You are exhausted. What is one specific stone in your invisible backpack, just one name, one memory, one failure, that you are willing to leave on the table today?
Just one stone. Leave it here in the light. And please, whatever you do not try to run this race alone anymore. You don't have to stay in isolation. We want to warmly invite you to join us to bring your real, authentic self to our community at Peters Creek Baptist Church right here in South Park, Pennsylvania.
We are a group of people learning how to run without anchors.
Exactly.
When do folks usually start gathering on a Friday?
Our Friday schedule is designed to give you multiple places to plug in. From 5:15 to 6 p.m., we have dinner together in the social hall. Just note that dinner is on the final Friday of each month only.
Okay, good to know.
Then, at 6:30 p.m., we move into large group worship.
And after that, we break it down a bit more, right?
We do. From 7:30 to 8:30 p.m., we break into our gender-specific small groups. That is where a lot of the real honest work of dropping the stones happens.
Yeah.
And then, from 8:30 to 9 p.m., we all gather right back here at the Crossroads Cafe for coffee and conversation.
If you are listening to this and you realize you need to reach out before Friday rolls around, please do. You can email Craig Amstone directly at craig.amstone@gmail.com. Or, if it's easier, you can contact the church office at info@pcbc.church.
To learn more about everything we do, you can visit pcbc.church. And if you're listening from outside the area and aren't local to South Park, you can absolutely find a group near you at crlocator.com.
Thank you for sitting at the table with us today. It takes immense courage to stop running and look at the chains. And it takes even more courage to step into the light and let them go. We are entirely committed to walking this road of recovery with you every single step of the way.
You are not alone. And no matter what the toxic guilt tells you, you are not disqualified. Keep walking, keep stepping into the light, and we will see you on the road.